Welcome everybody to the Out of the Box podcast, where we talk all about the happenings in the cinemas. I am Dominick, here with Micaela. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a great show for you today. We have some great topics to get into. And this past week, the Oscar nominations dropped.
This is a big one, guys.
Finally out. We were looking forward to this for a while. So we wanted to go over some of the nominations, just first some surprises, some snubs. In a future episode, we are going to go through the entire nominations and have our picks for winners in the different categories. But today, we wanted to talk about some of the surprises and the snubs for some of our top stories. Were there any surprises for you, Micaela, for the Oscar nominations?
Sam Rockwell. I enjoy Sam Rockwell in films, but I do not think that his nomination for supporting actor in Vice was deserved. I mean, it sounds really bad, but Sam Rockwell had this small character as George W. Bush in Vice. Didn't think it was enough to get a nomination.
Yeah, I probably think that you probably could have put somebody else in there. We have some snubs that we'll talk about. There are a few actors that I thought could have potentially been thrown into that spot. For me, one that I'm actually surprised about, but I'm happy for, is Black Panther getting a Best Picture nomination.
Breaking some records.
Yeah, the first ever comic book movie. I'm sure that's what a lot of people are looking at. It's going to be really good for the comic book genre as a comic book movie fan to be able to see that. Because I think last year, Logan should have got nominated. That was one of my favorite movies of 2017, so I'm glad that Black Panther got in there, but it was a surprise to me.
It was a very big surprise to me. Don't know if it's the level of Best Picture, but it's a very good film. And it came out in February.
Yeah.
So that's usually not Oscar season to look out for.
So look at this. 2 years in a row, films with
early release dates.
Yeah, with early release dates. Get Out and Black Panther both get
the nominations
for Best Picture.
That's good, though, because it's changing up the game. That you do not need to release later in the year to get the nom.
Absolutely.
And another one, Bohemian Rhapsody is Best Picture. It was not our favorite. We did like the story. We did like how they handled it, but I don't know. Good Rami Malek got the nomination for Best Actor.
He deserved that.
He deserved that. He was very good as Freddie Mercury. But Bohemian Rhapsody as a total getting Best Picture. We also have some news about Bohemian Rhapsody coming up of the person who directed it, but that's coming up later, so stay tuned.
Yeah. Another one that actually was a surprise for me was seeing Willem Dafoe at Eternity's Gate, the Vincent Van Gogh film that came out earlier this year. He actually got a nomination for lead actor. I'll admit, I have not seen that film yet, but it was surprising to see it because I did not hear a lot of buzz about it.
Yes.
Did not hear a lot of buzz about it.
Did not hear a lot of buzz.
And the director for Cold War, I'll try to say his name, Paul
Polakowski. I think it's that. I'm sorry if we butchered it.
Paul Polakowski was the director of Cold War, a foreign film. Yes, it has a lot of buzz around it. I did not hear a lot for his directing, though, so I was surprised to see him over some other people. Is there maybe somebody that you thought should have gotten that director nomination over him?
I mean, I'm sure it's well-deserved for him because we have not seen Cold War, so I cannot say if he deserved it or not. But I'm sure there's other people in there in that category that could have gotten nominated. I'm a big fan of John Krasinski and doing and starring in and directing A Quiet Place deserves something, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sure Powell deserved it. I have to see Cold War, though, so I cannot speak on if he should have been removed or not.
Yeah, I probably would have said that Bradley Cooper for Best Director was a big snub or a surprise for me that he wasn't included. I know that it's his first time directing, and I'm sure that he had some mistakes in his first movie. I'm not an expert on directing, but I thought he made a fantastic film. So it's evidence that he had 8 Oscar nominations for this film.
And a friend of mine, going right into the snubs, it's very interesting that my friend brought up, well, how is it that a movie and all of its actors get nominations but the director does not. That is surprising to me. I'm a person that gives a lot of faith in the writing and the directing of a film because this is just personal belief. I believe an actor is as good as their director and their character written out.
Yeah.
So it's kind of surprising to me to see that a director not get nominated, but everybody else, the actors, the screenplay, the best picture, all gets in the nominations, but the director does not.
Yeah, and so, and you look at Black Panther, and its director, Ryan Coogler, didn't get any love, didn't get any best adapted screenplay or anything like that for Black Panther.
But everyone cannot be nominated, so we're not saying everyone could be nominated, but we did like a lot of films this year that didn't get. But speaking of the snubs, I'll say a few. John David Washington in BlacKkKlansman. Why wasn't he?
One of my favorites.
Yeah, and then why wasn't he nominated for lead actor in a film? Yes. And also Timothy Chalamet in Beautiful Boy. That movie did not get talked about at all, but it had a lot of buzz around it. And why was he not nominated for supporting actor? That was a big role for a supporting actor, but
I thought that he was almost guaranteed to get a slot for best supporting actor because
we're not going to see Timothy Chalamet at the Oscars this year.
Well, he's going to be there. He's just not going to be there,
but he won't be nominated, which is going to be kind of bizarre for him.
Yeah, because the past couple of years he's been nominated, but I think that he probably should have deserved that supporting actor nomination. John David Washington, I loved it. I can see why he didn't get it, but I really liked him in that film. Probably the biggest travesty this entire thing is Won't You Be My Neighbor was not nominated for a feature documentary. What's going on?
And that was probably the biggest documentary of last year. I want to say everyone was talking about it. Everyone was talking about it. Even if you don't see the documentaries, people were going out there and watching it, either on streaming, in the theater. But it's just odd that he didn't get it. Mm-hmm. And a big buzz around If Beale Street Could Talk was not nominated for Best Picture, which is still very interesting to me.
Yeah, Barry Jenkins ended up getting Best Director, I believe, and Regina King got Best Supporting Actress.
Nomination, yeah.
Yeah, and she won the Best Supporting Actress at the Golden Globes as well, but they didn't get Best Picture nomination, so that was interesting. Yet again, the Academy decides not to use all 10 slots for Best Picture, and they only use 8. So a few films were left out.
Yeah, we're not saying that any of them could have been removed that are on that list, but Bohemian Rhapsody, but that's just a personal thought. But there's 2 open slots where, like I said, I love A Quiet Place. Emily Blunt had a pretty big year, was in Mary Poppins Returns and A Quiet Place. She didn't get nominated for anything, which is really bizarre. One of the biggest couples in Hollywood, Emily Blunt, John Krasinski, get left out.
Yeah, if you asked me back in November when we were waiting for Mary Poppins Returns to come out and all the trailers were out, we saw a lot of it, and Quiet Place is already out, I would have said, oh yeah, Emily Blunt's getting nominated for one of these. And she doesn't get nominated for either. That's just astounding to me.
It's a little snubby.
Mm-hmm. One that I thought was really good, and I was interested to see if it actually got nominated because it was a film that I really liked that came out this summer was 8th Grade. I'm surprised that it did not at least get Best Original Screenplay.
I'm not really surprised about that. I was surprised at the fact that they got in the Golden Globes.
Well, I really, really enjoyed the movie. I thought the screenplay was real and raw, and it hit me. And
yeah,
so
but that's I don't know enough to get an Oscar. That's a personal thought.
I'm surprised to me it got 0 nominations. Mm-hmm. That's one of the biggest surprises. It got 0, but like you said, not every film can be nominated. I know the one buzz that I heard a lot around the internet was Toni Collette for Hereditary. People were pushing for her to get Best Supporting Actress, and she did not get it. And she's been lauded as one of the best performances of the entire year, and she ends up getting snubbed for an Oscar as well. And as you can notice, there's a lot more snubs on our list than there are on surprises. But that's just the nature of it. We're always going to look back and say, oh, this should have happened.
And reflect on the good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Now, but congratulations to all of the nominees.
Congratulations. And we're so excited to see the Oscars on February
24th.
Okay, that's a Sunday. Yeah. I'm excited to stay up late that night in my pajamas. And now we're getting into the bigger news of the week. We have one that we're really not going to talk too much about, but it's just put on attention to you guys. Bryan Singer, the man, like we said, we were going to say something about Bohemian Rhapsody. He directed Bohemian Rhapsody and X-Men films, Unusual Suspects, and Unusual Suspects. But he is facing new sexual misconduct allegations. We're not going to pick a side. We're just giving you what was out in the news sources. There's allegations of sexual misconduct with underage boys.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff, and there's actually some official comments on this as well that we can pass along to you. So this started at where The Atlantic published a report in which 4 men alleged that Bryan Singer had sexual encounters with them when they were underage teenagers back in the 1990s. They alleged that Singer sexually harassed them, all 4 of them, and used alcohol and drugs in order to seduce them. Singer did come out and deny the allegations, and he actually put out an official statement, which we'll read out to you. He says, quote, "The last time I posted about the subject, Esquire magazine was preparing to publish an article written by a homophobic journalist who has a bizarre obsession with me dating back to 1997. After careful fact-checking and in consideration of the lack of credible sources, Esquire chose not to publish this piece of vendetta journalism. That didn't stop this writer from selling it to The Atlantic. It's sad that The Atlantic would stoop to this low standard of journalistic integrity. Again, I am forced to reiterate that this story rehashes claims from bogus lawsuits filed by a disreputable cast of individuals willing to lie for money or attention. And it is no surprise that with Bohemian Rhapsody being an award-winning hit, the homophobic smear piece has been conveniently timed to take advantage of its success."
And also The Atlantic has responded with, quote, "We have been asked why a story reported written by 2 Esquire writers is being published in The Atlantic. This story began with our editors at Esquire. After months of reporting, the story went through Esquire's editorial process, which included fact-checking and vetting by a Hearst attorney, and the story was approved for publication. The story was then killed by Hearst executives. We do not know why. We feel fortunate that The Atlantic decided to work with us, and we are grateful that the piece has gone through. The Atlantic's thoughtful editorial process, which included another rigorous fact check and robust legal vetting. We are most grateful that the alleged victims now have a chance to be heard, and we hope the substance of their allegations remains the focus." So we're not going to comment on our sides of it. We don't know anything. We respect both sides of the story.
Yes, and this comes after, with Bohemian Rhapsody, Bryan Singer ended up leaving the project towards the end of principal photography, right after last year's holiday break. He did not come back after the new year. They got somebody else to come in and finish up the film. Reportedly, he was still a part of the editing process, but there were a lot of allegations in the past against him as well. Now this pops up, and he has also had some other controversy because he is currently attached to direct an upcoming project called Red Sonja that's been in development for a very, very long time. And the producers of Red Sonja have stuck by saying that they are keeping Bryan Singer attached until more information comes out. So a lot of buzz coming around Bryan Singer's name recently. We'll pass it along if more news comes up. And so now we have the weekend box office report. We're going to quickly run through some of the notables in the chart. So at the top of the list, we have Glass with a 3-day total of $16 million, adding another $16 million to a total of $71 million. Definitely very successful. A film, especially seeing it only has a $20 million budget. Next at number 2, we have The Upside, starring Kevin Hart and Bryan Cranston. That ranked at $11 million this weekend, bringing its total for week 3 up to $62 million. Now, The Kid Who Would Be King, a brand new Fox release, which we have our review up on our SoundCloud and YouTube channels. Find us at Out of the Box Pod. It only raked in about $7.15 million, so a little bit of a disappointment in its opening weekend, opening under expectations for Fox. Aquaman keeps on swimming, raking another $7 million this weekend, bringing its domestic total over $316 million in its sixth weekend. Big, already past $1 billion internationally. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Sony brings in another $5.5 million, bringing its total up to $168 million. Great success there. Love to see that. Green Book had a big jump this week, opened over $5 million more, and that's actually up almost more than double what it had last week. That has a $48 million total in its 11th weekend. Still has great legs because of the Oscar buzz. A Dog's Way Home, that brings in another $4.5 million. And then we also see a brand new opening, Serenity, which that review is also up on our SoundCloud and YouTube channels again at Out of the Box Pod. That brought in about $4 million in its opening weekend. And then we see Escape Room bringing in $3 million, and then Dragon Ball Super Broly also bringing in about $3 million. Any surprises on this top 10 list?
Not really. I mean, except for Green Book racking in that much on week 11. That's pretty surprising to me, and good for them. And before we were discussing if it's surprising that Glass is getting so much, I don't think it's surprising. It's a big blockbuster release, so it shaped out to make that much money.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the big successes for a January release. Definitely is.
So let's go into those quick hits. We have some smaller news bits that we had come to us this week. James Gandolfini's son will be playing young Tony in the Sopranos prequel film, Many Saints of New York. We discussed it in podcast past, who was going to be playing in that film, and it just came out this week that James Gandolfini's son will be playing Tony.
Yeah, I think that's really nice. That's definitely really special. He's able to play his father's role. Zootopia, the Disney release from 2016, big hit, over $1 billion. You're going to be able to see a theme park based off of it. It's going to Shanghai Disney Resort. They're going to start work on it later this year. So in no time, we'll be able to go into the world of Zootopia. That's going to be pretty awesome. For fans of Fast and Furious, we know that Hobbs and Shaw is going to be opening this August. There's some more spinoffs on the way because Vin Diesel has revealed, after it's been reported earlier this week, that the writers of the female Fast and Furious spinoff have been announced. He posted it on his Instagram page. We still don't know which female character is going to be in that spinoff, but it's going to have an entire female cast spinoff, so that's going to be pretty cool for fans of the Fast and the Furious.
There's some new release dates announced for 2020 films. Jason Reitman's Ghostbusters that we discussed last time with that teaser trailer is coming out July 10th, 2020. So look forward to that coming to the big screen. Jared Leto's Morbius from Sony coming out July 31st, 2020. And an untitled Christopher Nolan IMAX event film. Do you know the name of it? Because we sure don't. July 17th, 2020.
So real quick, which one of those three are you most excited for?
Ghostbusters.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
I don't know. That teaser trailer really got me going.
I'll probably say the Christopher Nolan film because he always brings something really amazing, and say that they're calling it event film. It's cool. But hey, the Morbius film, it's another Spider-Man spinoff. Venom did really well, so
we'll
it's
see.
Be interesting to see if Morbius is able to perform. Those of you that are fans of the 21 and 22 Jump Street films, I know that we heard for a while that there could be a spinoff between Men in Black and the 22 Jump Street. Didn't work out. However, Phil Lord, one of the writers and directors of those first two movies, has said that 24 Jump Street is in development, while 23 Jump Street is actually going to be reserved for the future.
Why?
Because it's Lord and Miller, and they can do whatever they want because they're amazing. And if you remember, there was actually a story a few weeks ago that said that I think it was Tiffany Haddish and Awkwafina would actually be doing a female spinoff of 21 Jump Street.
I hate that stuff. They purposely be like, oh, female spinoff. It's just another Jump Street film, just played by female characters.
But hey, they can make an entire cinematic universe of the Jump Street universe and have the female team and then have Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum, and then maybe 23 Jump Street could have them come together. This could be a whole big thing.
Has Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum been signed on?
as of right now, all that Phil Lord has said that's in development, we'll pass along.
We'll see if they come back. We'll see.
I know they were trying to get a third movie made for a while, and that Men in Black Jump Street team-up movie was in development for a very long time. Unfortunately, couldn't come to fruition, but hopefully we can see Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum back in those roles because they were awesome in those first two movies. Maybe bring Ice Cube back. Bring Ice Cube back. And that was
Brie Larson. That's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this one movie that was popular in the 90s that LeBron just doesn't stop talking about this sequel, finally getting started on filming this summer, Space Jam 2. According to Discussing Film, Space Jam 2 will commence shooting on June 17th of this summer, 2019, in California. So it's finally going into development.
Produced by Ryan Coogler.
Ryan Coogler.
So definitely
You know his name.
Yes.
From Black Panther.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So LeBron James is going to be starring in it. Probably a lot of NBA stars in it. I know people have been waiting for this for a
Maybe
very,
Michael
very
Jordan
long
will
time.
show up.
Yep. It has been in development for a while now. So we're glad to see it actually getting off the ground.
And one of my favorite movies is, as you could say, completing its trilogy, Princess Diaries 3. It's been reported from Anne Hathaway. She said it to ET Entertainment Tonight that the script is finished and she and Julian Andrews are on board for the third film. Maybe Chris Pine will make a comeback. I mean, we could only hope.
He's just going to be in every movie. Every single movie from now until the end of time, Chris Pine is going to be in it. That's it. If you guys are fans of Jay and Silent Bob, Clerks, Yoga Hosers, all those movies, Kevin Smith, well, he is back. Kevin Smith has said that Jay and Silent Bob has been picked up by Saban Films, the company that did the most recent Power Rangers movie. That didn't turn out so well, but hopefully this one will turn out better. And Kevin Smith has said that shooting could start next month. They're already in pre-production for it. So glad to see that Kevin Hart's back, especially after that health scare he had last year, that he's back and he's going to be able to make a new Jay and Silent Bob film.
It's very funny because they're calling it a reboot, but they're not recasting.
Mm-hmm.
So don't worry, people. If you see anything about Jay and Silent Bob reboot, the originals are coming back, and it's going to be very exciting, especially after that scare that Kevin Smith had with his medical condition. We're glad that he's doing all right, and we're proud of him, and we're happy to see him on the big screen soon. Now, most of you like John Cena, and he will be starring in a Netflix action comedy directed by Jason Bateman. Jason Bateman.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, this movie sounds really interesting. John Cena is going to be trapped in a movie studio where the set comes to life.
So he's going to be living in a movie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kinda. It sounds absolutely awesome, hilarious, and Jason Bateman, so we know
from Ozark.
So we know he knows comedy, and we know that he could do serious as well.
Yes.
He's fantastic, so I'm wondering if Jason Bateman's going to be in the movie too.
He should make an appearance. That would be great. Probably
end up well, but John Cena has been on a roll recently with his movies, Blockers. He was really good in Bumblebee as well. So we're excited to see this movie coming to Netflix in the next couple of years.
And what is opening this week? My doppelganger. Well, I'm her doppelganger, you should say, because she's famous. Gina Rodriguez's Miss Bala is coming out this weekend. It's an action film with the Jane the Virgin star.
It will also feature Anthony Mackie, Ismael Cruz Cordova, and Matt Lauria. They will also be in the film as well. Miss Bala, the bullet. The Bala.
Bala,
the
bullet.
Bala.
But you'll see a review coming from us soon.
Absolutely. That movie actually looks action-packed, so we'll be out to see that. And also, a little bit more of a dramatic movie is going to be Arctic, starring Mads Mikkelsen, where he fights the frozen elements to stay alive after his plane crashes in the middle of the Arctic. So it's a big survival story. I know survival stories always hit hard.
So that concludes our episode of Out of the Box podcast. We thank you so much for listening. Again, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Out of the Box Pod. You can listen into our podcast on SoundCloud or YouTube. Email us any questions, any news that you see that we might have missed at outoftheboxpod@gmail.com. If you miss us throughout the week, do not fret. You could visit us on our blog and see what's happening at outoftheboxpod.wixsite.com/blog.
Yeah, thank you so much for tuning in and enjoy your weekend in cinemas.